There's a strange moment almost every man experiences at some point in his life. You're sitting somewhere, a coffee shop, a bus, maybe at work, and you see a guy walk in. He's not loud, he's not flexing, he's not trying to be seen, but somehow, everybody notices him anyway. And you can't explain why. There's no flashy clothes, no fancy watch, no over-the-top personality. Yet women glance at him in that quick, curious way. The way that says, who is he? His presence says everything he never had to speak. And deep down you wonder, what does he have that most men don't? Why does quiet confidence hit so much harder than loud effort? Welcome back to Mind Unmasked, the place where we peel back the layers of psychology and human behavior to understand what really makes people tick. If you're new here, make sure you stick around because what we're about to unpack isn't just interesting. It's something that can genuinely change the way you move through the world. And if you're a man watching this, especially one who feels overlooked or underestimated, this might be the first time someone finally tells you the truth you've needed to hear. Oh, let's begin with a hook. Something simple, but real, Women notice way more than men think. They pick up on energy, on intention, on tiny behaviors that don't need volume, ego, or spotlight. And ironically, the quieter the behavior, the louder the attraction. These are the psychological signals that slip under the surface but hit deep, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because they reveal the kind of man you really are. And in a world full of noise, a man who doesn't need noise becomes the rare one. The one who stands out without moving. The one who becomes unforgettable. And today, we're talking about those subtle, almost invisible habits. The 7 quiet behaviors that make men insanely attractive to women. Without trying, without acting, and without pretending to be someone they're not. These are the things that pull women in before a single word leaves your mouth. They're the things that make a woman's eyes linger just a few seconds longer than she expected, wondering why she suddenly feels drawn toward you. The first quiet behavior is the way a man carries his internal calm. Not the calm that's faked by putting on a cool face, but the genuine calm that comes from being grounded. It's in the way you breathe before you speak, the way you pause instead of reacting, the way nothing seems to shake you easily. Calmness is one of the most underrated male traits, and yet psychologically, it signals emotional maturity and self-control, traits women feel safe around. When you stay level-headed, women don't just find you attractive, they trust you. And attraction without trust doesn't last. Calmness tells her you won't explode, you won't panic, you won't bring chaos. And in a world full of chaotic people, calm becomes magnetic. And maybe you've been that guy before, anxious, overthinking, trying hard to prove something. But when a man grows into emotional steadiness, everything about him hits differently. His silence becomes interesting instead of awkward. His eyes hold focus instead of fear. His presence becomes something she feels, not just sees. Women sense this instantly, often before you do. The second quiet behavior is purposeful attention, not staring, not creeping, not forcing eye contact, but being fully present when you're listening. When a woman speaks and a man actually listens, not waiting for his turn to respond, but genuinely absorbing her words, she feels it on a level you can't fake. Most men are distracted. They're half listening, checking their phone, thinking about what to say next, or trying to impress. But the man who listens quietly, with intention, with curiosity, stands out in a way that shocks women. Because true presence is rare. It makes her feel seen, valued, and important. And psychologically, people bond with the ones who make them feel significant without asking for anything in return. The third quiet behavior is subtle confidence, the kind that doesn't need an audience. Quiet confidence is shown by how you walk into a room, not how loudly you talk in one. It's in your posture, your steady movements, the way you take your time instead of rushing. It's the difference between a man who tries to dominate a room and a man who naturally owns his space. Loud confidence wants approval. Quiet confidence doesn't need it, and women are wired to sense that difference immediately. Loud confidence says, look at me. Quiet confidence says, I know who I am, whether you're looking or not. And that is far more attractive. The fourth quiet behavior is self-control. Not the obvious kind like not getting angry or not oversharing, but the deeper type. The restraint to stay mysterious, to keep your emotions and personal life in your own hands. A man who doesn't reveal everything, who doesn't chase for attention, who doesn't spill every thought, that man becomes intriguing. Modern psychology shows that people desire what they can't fully predict. Women may appreciate emotional openness, but mystery is what activates curiosity. And curiosity is the seed of attraction. When you don't overshare your struggles, your wins, your losses, your plans, when you reveal things slowly, naturally, she becomes more drawn in, wondering what layers you have that she hasn't seen yet. Quiet restraint creates depth. The fifth quiet behavior is values expressed through action instead of words. When a man says he's kind, anyone can say that. When a man says he's loyal, anyone can say that too. But when a man consistently shows up, follows through, keeps his word, and treats people with steady respect, not grand gestures, not loud promises, women notice that instantly. Actions tell her exactly who you are without you having to explain yourself. A man who quietly demonstrates integrity becomes a man whose presence feels safe, and attraction, real lasting attraction, grows strongest around safety and consistency. The sixth quiet behavior is emotional independence. There's something deeply attractive about a man who has a life, passions, routines, and goals outside of any relationship. He doesn't cling, he doesn't depend, he doesn't fall apart when someone pulls away. He lives his life, and he lets others choose to be in it. When women sense that you're not trying to fill a void or use them as an emotional anchor, they feel more drawn to you. Nobody wants to feel like someone's whole identity. Emotional independence is quiet, but powerful. It says you choose love, but you don't need it to survive, and that makes your love far more valuable. And the seventh quiet behavior, the one that almost always catches women off guard, is the silent pursuit of purpose. A man who wakes up every day knowing what he's working toward carries a different energy. You can see it in his discipline, in the way he talks, in the way he spends his time. When a man has purpose, he becomes more attractive without doing anything. Purpose gives him direction, passion, ambition, and women naturally gravitate toward men who are building something with their life. Not because they want to benefit from it, but because purpose creates momentum. It creates confidence. It creates a sense of meaning that radiates from you even when you're not speaking. Women notice the man whose eyes show hunger for growth, the one who's chasing something bigger than attention. Purpose is silent, but unmistakable. And here's something many men misunderstand. You don't need to be perfect at any of these. You don't need to be rich, famous, tall, or charismatic. What makes these behaviors attractive is that they're genuine. They're not pickup tricks. They're not manipulation. They're the natural results of becoming a mature, self-aware man. And when a man grows into himself, when he builds habits that come from quiet strength, women feel that energy even before they understand why they're feeling it. There's a moment in every man's journey when he realizes he doesn't have to fight for attention. He doesn't have to chase validation. He doesn't need to prove himself. He learns that becoming attractive isn't about convincing anyone. It's about becoming someone who moves with intent, someone who knows his worth, someone who doesn't lose himself trying to impress others. And that shift in energy, that shift from outward hunger to inward stability, is what women find irresistible. Think about it. The men who try the hardest usually feel the least secure. The loudest men are often the most fragile. But the men who carry quiet habits, they don't need to be seen to feel valuable. They don't need to speak to have influence. They don't need to convince anyone of anything. Their strength speaks before they do. Picture this for a second. A man walks into a room. He's not dressed to stand out, but he looks sharp because he respects himself. He's not scanning the room for validation. He's noticing details, staying present. He speaks when he has something to say, not to fill silence. When someone talks to him, he listens, fully. His presence feels calm, grounded, warm. His eyes aren't desperate, his energy isn't chaotic. He's centered, and while he talks about life, his purpose shows in the way he speaks. His discipline shows in his habits. His values show in his choices. A woman notices him, not because he's the loudest, but because he's the most grounded. Not because he's the most talkative, but because he's the most intentional. Not because he's trying to impress her, but because he's clearly impressed with who he is becoming. That is the man she remembers. That is the man who stands out. That is the man she wants to know more about. And maybe right now you're thinking, I'm not that man yet, but the truth is, every man can become him. These behaviors are not gifts. They're skills, they're choices, and they're built quietly over time. You build calm by facing your triggers instead of letting them control you. You build presence by learning to listen instead of needing to respond. You build confidence by keeping promises to yourself one day at a time. You build self-control by speaking less and observing more. You build values by choosing consistency when nobody is watching. You build independence by creating a life you enjoy on your own. And you build purpose by choosing a direction and walking toward it every day. And the moment you start doing these things, women will notice. Not because you're trying to impress them, but because you've become impressive to yourself. Quiet strength is attractive because it comes from within, not from performance. These aren't behaviors you put on like a mask. They're behaviors you grow into as you become more self-aware, more disciplined, and more emotionally grounded. And let me tell you something real. Women have a sixth sense for authenticity. They can feel when a man is faking confidence. They can feel when he's pretending to be calm, pretending to be independent, pretending to have purpose. But when it's real, when it's truly who you are, that's when it hits. That's when you become the guy who's hard to forget. The guy who stays on her mind long after the conversation ends. The guy she wants to understand deeper because she can already feel there's more beneath the surface. A man who moves with quiet strength doesn't compete with other men. He doesn't need to. He lives in his own lane, at his own pace, building his own life. And that is incredibly attractive. Not because it's flashy, but because it's rare. Women don't fall for the man who tries to be everything. They fall for the man who is deeply, confidently himself. And maybe nobody told you this yet, but these quiet behaviors don't just make you attractive. They make you powerful. They make you resilient. They make you someone who is respected by others and at peace with yourself. They give you a sense of inner gravity, the kind that pulls people in without effort. And once you develop that, once you become the man who speaks softly but carries depth, you stop worrying about whether women will key you, because the right ones always will. So, if you want to become that man, the man women notice without understanding why, the man whose presence speaks louder than words, start small. Start with one behavior. Practice calm. Practice listening. Practice staying grounded when others lose themselves. Practice speaking less and meaning more. Practice focusing on your purpose instead of distractions. Practice giving more attention to your growth than your need for approval. Because here's the truth that almost every man learns a little too late. Attraction isn't created by chasing women. Attraction happens when you chase yourself, your discipline, your peace, your purpose. Women don't fall in love with effort, they fall in love with energy. And the energy of a quiet, grounded, purpose-driven man is something that can't be ignored. So as we wrap this up, remember this. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to be perfect to be attractive. You don't have to be impressive to be unforgettable. You just have to be real, intentional, and growing into the strongest version of yourself. That's the man women remember. That's the man who stands out without standing up. And that's the man you're becoming, one quiet behavior at a time. If you found something in this message that hit you, stay with us here on Mind Unmasked. This channel is about more than psychology. It's about understanding yourself, becoming who you were meant to be, and unmasking the parts of you that make you powerful. You're not watching by accident. You're here because you're ready to grow. And trust me, the world notices men who grow. Stick around, subscribe, and join the journey. Quiet strength starts here.